This guy's body is completely covered in cursed runes and battle scars, and he's treated like garbage by his own team. But why? Born into a powerful family, branded a failure, he exists for one purpose only: to absorb the curses and wounds of the world's hero squad. The silver-haired princess orders him to strip yet another curse from the blonde hero. Crash obeys. His dark power rips the poison straight out of the hero's veins and dumps it into his own shattered body. His job is to take their pain, and he's not even worth a second glance. All of this while a colossal, skeletal boss looms over them, ready to wipe humanity off the map. Then something goes wrong. The hero isn't fighting. He looks bored. He announces the world is finished and drops the bomb. His real power is regression. He's cracking open a gate to the past for himself and his three companions, and leaving Crash behind to be slaughtered. When Crash begs for help, the hero smiles, cold and cruel, and hands him the truth like a knife to the gut. Crash was never a comrade. He was a disposable item meant to be used until broken, then swapped out for a fresh version in the next timeline. And it wasn't just the hero. Every single member of that group owed Crash a debt written in blood. Abella, the Tower Witch, begged him to take her curses so she could keep casting. And when Crash, rotting from the inside out, went looking for something just to dull the pain, she attacked him. Mary Diana, the Empire's most powerful knight, made his days at the Academy a living hell. She beat him, mocked his Valheim roots, called him a liar, knowing full well he couldn't fight back. Sigrun, the very princess barking orders at him, turned on him in the final moment and defended the traitor hero without a second thought. Crash even gave up an eye for these people and got nothing but silence and contempt in return. Pure rage floods through him as the weight of it all crashes down. His sacrifice meant nothing. His pain meant nothing. Refusing to be thrown out like garbage, he forces his broken body forward and fires the Black Hood. Not at a curse this time, but at Arthur's regression power itself. The magic lunges forward, a dark hand closing around the hero from behind. Crash expects a lock. There is none. Arthur never treasured that power. To him, reliving the apocalypse over and over was its own curse. And in that moment, Crash understands. Arthur didn't just leave him behind. He handed him the one thing he wanted to be rid of and used Crash to do it. Even this was one last job, but none of that stops him. Crash tears the time travel magic apart at the exact moment the giant scythe obliterates reality itself. Then silence, birds, warm air. Crash's eyes snap open. No battlefield, no corpses, a soft bed. He bolts to a mirror and stares at his 10-year-old face, staring back, wide-eyed, untouched, with no idea what's coming. The regression worked. The power is his now. But this time, the disposable item remembers everything, and he will never be anyone's tool again. The world erosion is a phenomenon that corrodes the earth, dragging it into another dimension. After the event, drastic environmental changes occur, and they worsen with each new incursion. Between incursions, humanoid creatures emerge. They are known as the invaders of worlds. The moment they appear, their malevolent presence spreads terror. People run in panic as they watch the invaders devastate the villages. But there are humans who resist the erosion's advance. They fight against these invading monsters. Knights and mages are among those facing them right now. Together they are called the Blue Generation. The hero whose body can seal curses also joined the Blue Generation. In the end, he is treated like a vessel for curses and betrayed by his own comrades. Crash Valheim lived a miserable life until the day he woke up in the past at 13 years old. He wakes up in shock, realizing his friend's magic worked and sent him back in time. He is in his old childhood room. Moments ago, he faced a deadly cold. Now he feels the summer heat. He understands that his gamble using the Black Hood on Arthur brought him back to Greenpine Manor. The magic not only worked, it also stole Lord Arthur's ability. Confusion floods his thoughts. He wonders how it was possible to steal his former comrade's ability. The Black Hood's ability can be used freely with no apparent restrictions. However, to steal a target's possession, the user must unlock a lock generated upon activation. The lock's difficulty is based on the owner's affinity for the item. This increases the difficulty of the theft, an ability that could transfer 99% of the world's wealth to its wielder. It is a unique ability with an absurdly difficult theft condition, making it extremely valuable. Crash knows that the greater the target's value, the more complex the conditions for the theft. This makes him question what was going through Lord Arthur's mind, because when he activated the ability, no lock appeared. The absence of the lock can only mean one thing. Arthur wanted to get rid of that ability. The man known as the King of Heroes wanted to abandon his power of regression. Now he remembers. He had noticed something strange about Arthur lately. He remembers the constant look of exhaustion on his face. The world's imminent destruction and the endless problems drove Arthur to madness. To the King of Heroes, his ability was a curse, and that is why he tried to make the others keep their memories. The goal was for them to return together, leaving the hero behind. The theft of the ability, however, means something much deeper. It means that the Arthur that Crash knew lost the ability and was left behind in the doomed world. There he is crushed by the Blue Death Knight's meteor. The conclusion is clear that Arthur died to be free of the ability he saw as a curse. The hero laughs and hopes that Lord Arthur is happy and resting in peace. He does this even knowing that Arthur always despised him. After all, stealing curses is not something anyone can or wants to do. They never paid attention to the companion who suffered the most, always in the group's shadows. Back then, exhaustion and sadness consumed him, leading him to cry constantly. Now he understands that Arthur just got what he deserved for being a piece of trash. In the Green Pine Mansion, the hero realizes his body is still very small. Seeing his reflection, he notices he is only 10 years old with a small but already muscular frame. It is the result of wielding a sword every day to survive in the Valheim family, the strongest clan in the Kingdom of Star. His presence in the Green Pine Mansion is proof that the trial ceremony has already happened. The Valheim family's trial ceremony is the ritual where each person's ability is revealed by a contracted god. The god's rank depends on the contractor's quality, but he was the exception among the blessed bloodlines of Valheim. With no martial talent and rejected by all the gods, he is expelled from the main house. That is why he is sent to the Green Pine Mansion, the destination for all the failures of the royal bloodline. Now only he, the greatest failure of the Valheim family, knows something crucial. He knows about the end of the world, an apocalypse that not even the Blue Generation can stop. He wonders if he is capable of stopping this apocalypse, and as a consequence, the complete destruction of the world he knows. Crash Valheim, now a child, punches the air with determination. He tells himself not to be sad. He still does not know if he will be able to stop the end of the world. But Crash is motivated and tells himself that he must stop it. If the world ends, he will die with it. And so he has no choice. Immediately, he starts thinking about the first step to prevent the apocalypse. At that moment, Ariad, his butler, appears to serve the young master. The hero is immensely happy to see that old Ariad is alive. As the sole butler of the mansion, he asks if the young master needs anything. Ariad is the butler who cared for the failure known as Crash Valheim. However, the poison his brother gave him will be used on the butler, marking his first betrayal at 14 years old. A girl eliminates multiple enemies with a single swift strike. A powerful aura emanates from her body as she strikes down her opponents. The knights are in shock as a girl of only 15 has neutralized them all. She is the Sword Saint, Charlotte Valheim, Crash's older sister. Her talent is said to be a phenomenon that appears only once in a millennium. They know she is a genius from another bloodline, and that thanks to her, the Valheim family will never be extinguished. The one who says this is Belakanin, Crash's half-brother, who actually wants to eliminate this entire bloodline. Despite this, they consider Charlotte a huge risk, though they comment that her mother is decent. The conversation then turns to the useless failure of the Valheim family. Belakanin reveals his plan to eliminate Crash and communicates his intention to old Aliad. He argues that the butler's career was cut short because of Crash, offering a motive for the elimination. Belelowin proposes that Aliad give Crash a poison, and in return he will no longer have to worry about his daughter's treatment or money. The butler, however, hesitates as he raised young Master Crash as if he were his own son. Noticing the hesitation, the half-brother cuts him off with a new argument. He asks if he is really going to choose to save someone else's son instead of saving his own biological daughter. The weight of the choice makes the old butler, Aliad, reflect deeply. In the end, he concludes that he cannot save Crash over his own daughter. But in the past, events unfolded differently, and a young Crash trembles in fear. He cries as he sees Aliad on the ground, gravely wounded and spitting blood. The butler apologizes to the young master, confessing that his mission that day was to eliminate him. He confesses to this act even while considering the young master as precious as a son. In that instant, he makes the decision to die in the little boy's place. Crash is crushed by guilt over his butler's death. Iliad eats the poisoned steak in Crash's place, using the poison his brother gave him for the task. Now Crash approaches and asks the old butler when he intends to take that poison. Iliad is in shock at the question, as Crash knows he plans to poison him to save his own daughter. He states that sooner or later, the truth would come to light. Afraid of forcing him to make an impossible choice again, Crash demands that he stop feigning ignorance. He knows this order would never have been given if he were not considered the family's failure. Iliad expected Crash to cry with rage or feel guilty about his betrayal, but the young master's reaction is completely different from what the old butler expected. He asks the butler to follow him. They walk to the library and Iliad assumes the young master has come to study. The young master orders his butler to cut the wall. He states that the task will be easy as Iliad is the butler of the Valheim family. The butler takes a few steps forward. He prepares himself and draws his sword. His magical energy activates, preparing him for potential combat. Then he unleashes a strike that generates a powerful blast of wind. The attack destroys part of the wall with a clean and precise cut. Iliad is shocked to discover a secret passage in that location. As he watches the young master enter the passage, the butler notices something. Crash has become a completely different person. He now possesses the aura of a lord. The young man observes the secret location and memories begin to surface. Before, everything in this place was consumed by fire, but in this reality, he has reached the location before the fire. The butler asks the young master if he wants the chains on the door to be cut. Crash replies that he will not be able to, and decides to test the power of the Black Hood ability. The darkness advances toward the padlock on the door and begins to destroy it. In the end, the chains holding the door break completely. In that instant, his butler is shocked by the ability the young master used. Crash removes the padlock and Iliad asks if he has made a contract with a god. At this time in his life, he has not yet made such a contract. He then replies that the contract was made with an insignificant deity. The butler is confused when the young man asks him to report what happened in the library to his father until the day before. Young Crash's eyes seemed empty and lifeless. Suddenly, everything changed the moment he made a contract with a god. He imagines that the young master has obtained a powerful ability and remembers that he shares the same bloodline as his sister, the greatest genius of the Valheim family. Even if he is not on Charlotte Valheim's level, the butler believes he can become very strong. For this reason, he decides to understand what has happened to the young master. He tells the young master that he will not report anything about the incident. Crash then understands a side effect of his regression to the past. His actions, different from before, have caused a change in Iliad. The Iliad who betrayed him now exists only in his memories. He thinks about Arthur's suffering and the possibility of having gotten rid of that ability. He plans to cure the butler's daughter's illness to earn his loyalty, increasing the number of pawns in his new life. His rude and impolite demeanor is a facade, a calculated act for the moment he cures the butler's daughter. But for now, the secret library is his only priority. As he opens the doors, a powerful purple light floods his vision. The shock is immediate, and his eyes widen at the scene. Suddenly, a beam of intense magical light erupts through the door, startling him. A chill runs through his body, even for someone who has endured countless curses on his journey. In that instant, there is no doubt that the book he seeks is in this library. His eyes are drawn to an intense light emanating from one of the shelves. And finally, he finds the book he has been looking for all this time. In these books, the ancestors considered failures of the Valheim family recorded their techniques and life memories. This is a product of humanity, a place where they kept their secrets to reach the pinnacle of power. At first, access was free, but it all became secret because of a single person. That person was Darius Valheim. This man was the greatest failure in the history of the Valheim lineage, but he was also the one who, consumed by the world's erosion, became the strongest of all. The image shows his smile after being consumed by the erosion. Now the secret book of his ancestors' greatest failure is in his hands. The story of Darius Valheim, the family's greatest failure, unfolds. And yet, he was the strongest in the entire history of the Valheims. At the height of his power, the most powerful warriors of the era challenged him. With his dehumanized hands and giant fangs, he created spheres of pure energy. No one was capable of stopping the monstrosity that was Darius Valheim. All who faced him met their death. Extreme blood immersion venom. That was his ability. He incorporated the world's erosion into his own body, possessing the insane secret weapon to wield such power. Half of the book is burned, and he assumes that Diamaris went mad as the erosion advanced. He remembers when he was struck by the curse of erosion, weakening it with the Black Hood and compensating with other curses. If the same principle applies to the devastation caused by the extreme blood immersion venom, and if he steals a curse that controls this advance, then he can acquire the strength of the erosion like Dearest, but without going mad from the consequences. In this way, he can become as strong as Dearest. Confidence grows within him as the plan to control the venom and avoid insanity seems possible. Crash makes a request to his butler, Aliad. He orders that no one is allowed to enter the Green Pine Mansion. The butler obeys and leaves the library. Aliad intends to repay the young master's favor, and that is why he refuses Belliconen's offer. Belliconen is enraged by the refusal, especially when Aliad states that his true master is the young Crash Valheim. Belliconen's fury grows as he thinks about such a failure in the family, and even Charlotte's genius irritates him, all because her bloodline became an obstacle in his path. If it were not for her, both he and Lise would have kept their positions in the direct bloodline. The memory consumes him with rage. He lets out a scream and his butler approaches to ask if he needs anything. Belliconen orders the butler to go to the Green Pine Mansion, where the young Master Crash is. He demands to know why Aliad changed his mind, but the butler replies that he cannot enter the mansion. Aliad blocks entry to everyone, including the head of the family himself. Belliconen is outraged by the audacity of them preventing the owner from entering his own property. The older brother explodes in fury against the younger one, calling him an arrogant failure. Meanwhile, the hero meditates, releasing a large amount of energy in the process. He realizes he has reached the experienced beginner level. There are several stages of aura, and he is in the first, the user stage, as he has just learned to master it. The second stage is the experience level where most aura users are. He has barely reached the beginning of the path, while Charlotte, only 2 years older, is already an aura master. But not even his older sister's terrifying power was enough. In the end, she also gave in, as her power did not work against the erosion. Compared to his sister, Charlotte Valheim, he is nothing more than a beginner. The realization makes him question if he can really save the world. At this rate, his older consciousness observes him, reminding him that he will only know the answer when he tries. He orders himself to stop lamenting because before the regression, he could not even use aura. Now the situation is different. Even if he still cannot compare to his sister, he can get stronger with the secret art, a legacy left by the failures of his family. That is why Crash regains his confidence. He believes he can become stronger and that it will be enough. His butler congratulates him for reaching the experienced beginner level. The protagonist responds modestly, saying it was nothing special. He then asks why the butler waited for his meditation to end. Aliad informs him that his fiancée, Bianca Hardenhearts, has arrived at the Green Pine Mansion. The news leaves Crash stunned. Bianca is known by a fearsome nickname, the White Demon. She was the leader who, as a pawn of the World Eaters, tried to destroy everything and earned that nickname by defeating the strongest Celestials. Now she is just the youngest daughter of the Hardens family. Their marriage is a political arrangement. The Hardens rule the North, and the Valheims use this alliance to connect with a powerful martial family. Thus, the two children are mere instruments for their families. He has business with Bianca, but her visit is unexpected. Bianca is the youngest daughter of the Hardenarts, the rulers of the North, and was born after her mother was taken by the curse of erosion. She carries the curse of the Snow Doll, a condition that left her devoid of emotions from birth. The curse struck her unbreakable soul and corrupted her body, preventing her from forming a contract with a god. She is treated as a cursed child born in exchange for her mother's life. That is why Bianca is treated coldly by the Hardens family. He wonders if Bianca hates him for some reason. As long as he does not steal her curse, there will be no reason for Bianca to hate him. After all, the Snow Doll is necessary to control the fury of the extreme immersion poison in her blood. He decides to change his clothes to receive her. He orders the butler to let her in so they can talk. 5 months earlier, Crash Valheim and the girl had a fight. He threw her out when he realized she only wanted the Valheim family's power. On that occasion, he demanded the apathetic girl stop pretending to be his wife. She showed no reaction, but the fight struck her deep in her soul. This is why Bianca was reluctant to go to the Green Pine Mansion. Her parents warned her that their survival depended on winning the young Valheim's heart. So even though she wanted no part in the plan, she went against her will. She was told that the fate of the Hardens family was in her hands. She reflects that if she were not being forced into marriage by her family, she would not be stuck with a loser like him. Despite showing no reaction, she feels uneasy, and shows anxiety upon arriving at the mansion. The girl is certain that in an ideal reality, she would reject someone like him. Crash arrives to greet her, and the moment promises to be grim. However, he is kind and says he will reprimand the maid for serving hot tea to his fiancée Bianca. The girl shows no reaction to Crash Valheim's kindness. He comments on the weather and invites her for a walk in the garden to see the flowers. He then asks a servant to bring macadamia cookies for them both. He tells Bianca the journey must have been difficult and that they need to see each other in person since they are getting married. He observes that she speaks as if she is in front of a superior, not her future spouse. The girl notices he is different than before and finds this change strange. Before his gaze was sharp, but now he seems like a completely different person. He observes the nature around them, commenting that the place is very peaceful. Faced with such strangeness, Bianca asks if he is really Crash Valheim. The two stare at each other the moment she asks the question. He controls his reaction to avoid giving himself away. He scratches his head once again, pondering what to say. The young master then asks if he is really so different from how he used to be. In that instant, he releases a murderous intent that Bianca perceives, and a sinister aura envelops him. She apologizes for bringing it up, and he realizes he has scared her. His memories of that time are a mess, and he does not remember how he treated her. Looking at her apathetic face, he recognizes Bianca's signature expression. It is the same expression she wore when he met his end at the Northern Frozen Sea mansion. He tries to change the subject, revealing that he made a contract with God. The woman concludes that his personality changed because of this contract. It is then that he says he has a proposal for her. She asks if the proposal is to annul the marriage now that he has made a contract with God. Crash interprets this to mean she does not want to marry someone like him, and that her desire to annul the engagement reveals her low self-esteem. However, the girl hears his assumption and neither corrects him nor denies the accusation. On the contrary, she affirms that she is his wife and declares that nothing will change that fact. He is genuinely surprised to hear Bianca say this without any trace of a lie. Crash decides to return to the main topic and talks about the ability he has awakened. He reveals that he intends to steal Bianca's curse for himself. She finds it strange that he wants to steal a curse that not even the greatest experts could break. She asks if he intends to handle the curse alone, and he confirms, wanting to use it to grant her any wish. She knows Crash is treated as a failure, and that a barrier exists between him and the main family. The girl deduces that he is tired of everything and wants to use her curse to erase his own emotions. She wonders if this is what they call a disease of the heart. After all, a mage once told her that when someone reaches their maximum mental potential, they get a disease of the heart. Succumbing to this disease can lead a person to take their own life or to become kind, as if they were a different person. It is a dangerous time where certain behavioral changes are warning signs of an imminent end. The mage warned her that if she ever met someone like that, she should stay by their side. In response, she holds Crash Valheim's hand and affirms that everything will be all right. She adds that he needs to learn to control his emotions without relying on the curse. She promises to visit him regularly, perhaps even live near him, and he is astonished as he thought she hated him and rejected the marriage. Bianca replies that even if that were true, she would never abandon someone in danger. He understands that Bianca is the type to act without hesitation once she makes a decision, but she is interpreting everything wrong. He fears she will refuse to give up the curse, and for that reason, he decides to activate his ability immediately. He then activates the Black Hood's ability, which manifests and surrounds the girl. His hand passes through her and begins to steal the curse from her body. The condition for the unlock is activated, but something surprises him in the process. After all, the first condition requires him to become friends with Bianca. Crash realizes this will be a problem, as the curse is recognized as part of her body and holds value because she was born with it. To unlock the condition, he needs to become friends with the White Demon, a task more difficult than becoming her husband. If he sends her away, it is only a matter of time until she becomes the White Demon. So keeping her close is the best option at this moment. Following Bianca's suggestion is the best method, and he welcomes the opportunity to see his wife regularly. Then the girl says she will first confirm with her father if she can live near the hero. She says goodbye, and Crash calculates he will have a month until her return, time he will use to read all the books on secret arts. The next day inside the Green Pine Mansion, something happens. Bianca is back to the hero's complete surprise. She announces that she will live with him in the mansion starting today, and that she expects to be well taken care of. The hero is in shock at the news that he will be living with the girl. The hero begins to awaken. He slowly opens his eyes. He then notices that the girl is sleeping by his side. He wonders if Bianca decided to sleep by his side again. He thinks that if a visitor saw them like that, they would misunderstand the situation. She wakes up, wishes him a good morning, and asks what he is doing there. The protagonist asks Bianca the same question. Afterward, he begins his long and habitual meditation routine. As he stops to think, he realizes that months have passed since Bianca came to live with him. He remembers the day she arrived and announced she would be living with him in the Green Pine Mansion. When she was placed under his care, the hero was completely shocked. She was moving in because her family gave permission without even consulting him. He thought about asking if she would be okay far from her family since she was only 12 years old. But when you have no emotions, affection for family disappears, and she was indifferent. This turned out to be a good opportunity to befriend her and fulfill the requirement to steal the curse. It all happened in the summer, and now it is almost winter, with nearly half a year having passed. The opening of Rahern Academy, established by the Four Great Kingdoms and the Empire, is approaching. It trains people capable of opposing the erosion of the world, accepting students between 15 and 20 years of age. Before his regression, it was this academy that produced countless members of the Blue Generation. It was because of that scum that he died, and the mere memory fills him with rage. Because he knows their weaknesses better than anyone, he will steal their skills. He turns 14 next year, and only 365 days remain until enrollment. That is why he must grow stronger by then, stealing the skills he needs. He is beginning to hit the limits of his talent, which restrict him to the level of a novice, the first step toward becoming an expert. His only choice is to steal Bianca's doll curse as soon as possible and learn to use the blood immersion poison. He enters the room and finds Bianca, who was waiting for him, reading a book. Bianca states that she cannot leave Crash Valheim alone. She follows him everywhere, as if he were a helpless chick. He wonders when she will finally see him as a friend, which is necessary to meet the condition for stealing the curse. Crash considers asking her out, hoping to build the necessary affinity. At that very moment, his butler informs him that an invitation from the Starlight Sanctuary has just arrived. The Starlight Sanctuary is an annual gathering for the youth of the Star Kingdom, an event for socializing and forging connections. He vaguely recalls the event and thanks Aliad for the explanation. Because he was confined to the Green Pine Mansion before his regression, his memories of the event are hazy. Despite this, he accepts the invitation. He suspects a certain person will be there and decides to go. Also, to keep the promise he made to his butler. He announces that he will go to the Starlight Sanctuary with Bianca and asks Aliad to notify the necessary people. Bianca warns him that the other attendees at the Starlight Sanctuary will surely try to criticize him. He knows she is right, but he is more worried about what they might say to Bianca. She, however, does not back down and affirms that she will go with him to the Starlight Sanctuary. He argues that it is his duty as her fiancé to protect her from such situations. He clarifies that he is not asking as her fiancé, but because he wants to know her true feelings. She sees the look of pity on his face, and it bothers her once again. For the past few months, Crash has treated her with a strange and unexpected kindness. He takes her with him to the library and even asks what she wants for breakfast. He lets her sleep peacefully under a tree while he tends to his own affairs. The girl feels genuinely happy to be treated with such kindness, something she never experienced in the Harden household. It gets to the point where she almost forgets the terrible first impression she had of him. She realizes she is starting to like Crash and states that she wants to go with him of her own free will, not just as his fiancé. Crash is visibly surprised to hear Bianca's words. In light of this, he agrees to let her accompany him to the Starlight Sanctuary. They depart by carriage, passing the Grand Garayu Pavilion on the way. She notices that he has rented out the region's most famous landmark entirely and realizes the immense wealth they possess. In this world, the reason nobles are respected is because they fight the world's erosion in place of the commoners. And yet, these party-obsessed people are considered the future of Starlon. At that moment, the hero and his fiancée Bianca arrive and enter the hall. He doubts there are many decent people in the Star Sanctuary. As soon as they enter, comments arise about him being the family's useless son and her the cursed woman of the Northern Conqueror. Being in the middle of these false nobles will not be effective until someone gets excited by Valheim's arrival, considering him interesting and different from the others. This proves that there are some true nobles in this place. This is Treso Barak Hogma. At his side is the Elflia. And finally, the third is the wood archer Annex Glazer. Together, the trio will be known as the Heroes of Starlon. The reason for their interest in him is specific. The hero is certain it is because of Charlotte, Crash's older sister. She commented that many praised her dress and that no one in the sanctuary is capable of defeating her in combat. Charlotte found the gathering very boring and boasted excessively. Judging by the atmosphere, the hero realizes his sister has already caused trouble and decides to leave the sanctuary as soon as possible. In that instant, Bianca pulls on his suit to get his attention. She tells him not to mind what people are saying, but he replies that he is actually thinking of his sister. He claims he does not care about the insults and notices that she, also a target of their scorn, worries more about him than herself. Suddenly, they overhear people talking about the couple, referring to them without using their names. When the young master and his fiancée Bianca approach, everyone falls silent. They announce the arrival of Lord Darling Danfelion to the Star Sanctuary for the gathering. The center of attention from the alchemy castle Darling appears. He is the strangest among the eccentric nobles. The protagonist's body is covered in curse marks. A person tries to touch his body asking why he is like this. The same person comments that this type of curse erosion can be resolved in a certain way. She claims she can cure him and asks if he is interested in being her test subject. Seeing he has no energy to respond, she assumes he accepts the proposal. She states that the healing session will begin immediately. The woman then does something that makes Crash's eyes go wide. She approaches slowly, intending to kiss him on the mouth. The hero stops him. The figure before him is the Lord of the Alchemy Castle, Darling Danfelion. It is the first time he meets the man who will later be known as the King of Alchemy. In the present, he charms everyone at the ball. The hero cannot believe this attention-addicted stalker is in a place with so many people. The hero then approaches Bianca seeking help to deal with the situation. She continues eating and responds apathetically, saying she will stay exactly where she is. The hero approaches Darling to start a conversation, but the alchemist does not recognize him. However, when the young man introduces himself as Crash Valheim, the name sparks a faint memory in Darling. Then the memory clicks into place. He is Charlotte's younger brother, and the resemblance between them is remarkable. Realizing the connection, the nobleman is fascinated by the fact that he is Charlotte's brother. Darling asks if he has some business with him, and speculates that his clothes must have caught the boy's eye. The hero ignores the taunt and changes the subject, revealing that he knows about Darling's research on the world's erosion. The revelation instantly piques Darling's interest in the boy. Darling remarks that he is quite a provocative boy. He states that his interest is piqued, and the two withdraw to a private room, closing the door behind them. The future king of alchemy asks Crash his age. Darling picks up 2 swords as the hero answers that he is 13 years old. The alchemist remarks that he looks young, but his aura is completely at odds with his age. Internally, he feels like an academy veteran, so he decides to get straight to the point. The king of alchemy orders him to say everything he has to say. In that moment, the protagonist grips his sword and begins to tremble. His eyes widen as he witnesses a bewildering sight. The king of alchemy strikes with his sword, and the boy parries at the last second. He then dodges and asks what Darling is doing, questioning the sudden attack. Darling replies that since he is Charlotte's brother, he wants to test his skills first. This deeply irritates the protagonist, who wanted to get straight to the point. Darling asks what he has to discuss, stating that he is listening to the proposal. The hero prepares to attack, and a dark aura forms around him. The sight surprises Darling, who had considered him a useless boy with no skills whatsoever. The hero states that he trains every day and warns Darling not to use his techniques against a student. He mentions curse enhancement and says he could help the King of Alchemy with that matter. Darling asks what he knows about alchemy to justify proposing a partnership. Hearing the question, the protagonist stares at the future King of Alchemy in silence. He then leaps into the air and spins his body. He places his sword against Darling's neck, ending the fight. He then states that the subject is the research to neutralize the world's erosion curse. He adds that the dispersers have not yet managed to break it using other curses. But to become a first-class alchemist, Darling needs to validate this research. Knowing this, the hero wants to help Darling become a great alchemist. He promises to help him by using his ability to steal curses. The offer leaves the eccentric nobleman in shock once again, as he realizes the boy has an aura and is not useless and unskilled. Darling realizes that if the boy's words are true, this will be the perfect opportunity to test the supply and demand of curse neutralization. He asks if he can become his boyfriend in return. But what Crash wanted was a remedy to reduce the curses. Mixing remedies is Darling's specialty, and he confirms he will do what was asked. The Blue Generation had extraordinary abilities, but still failed to prevent the world's destruction. That is why a useless person like him needs to use every means possible, including remedies. Darling had heard he lost his motivation from being compared to Charlotte, but now he realizes that was a lie. While she is an overwhelming genius, he is a twisted individual. The eccentric and utterly distinct nature of the siblings excites Darling. In response, he asks the young man a direct question. He asks if the boy intends to attend Rayharn Academy. With a confident look, the young man affirms that he obviously will. The answer leaves the future king of alchemy completely enchanted. He declares that he will mix the remedies for the curse and is very excited to cooperate with Crash. Crash, however, has one more request. He mentions the discoloration disease, an incurable condition that darkens the victim's skin until death. The young master then orders him to create a cure for this curse. The alchemist, however, states that the disease is incurable and that creating a cure is impossible even for him. Coming from the future, Crash knows that Darling will eventually find the cure. Darling clenches his fists and considers a response. Crash insists that he will be able to find a cure for the curse. Darling replies that the insistence wounds his pride a little. Despite this, the two shake hands and seal their promise. Crash asks that the remedy be sent to the Green Pine Mansion, and Darling promises to deliver it in person. He cannot stop thinking about how deeply Crash loves his sister Charlotte. Darling then confesses that the spot by his side is vacant and that he would like to be his boyfriend. He admits the boy is still a child, but confesses that he also likes men. Hearing the alchemist's confession, the young man becomes visibly frightened. He starts running the instant the king of alchemy declares him his future lover. Crash remembers that Darling was the exact same type of man in his previous life. Back at the sanctuary, he notices a crowd forming a circle around some kind of scene. With a grim expression, he runs to see what is happening. In the center of the circle, a man holds Bianca by the arm, but her expression remains indifferent. Even with her arm gripped tightly, her thoughts are only of Crash. The moment he appears, she calls his name with an apathetic gaze. In that instant, Crash lands a kick on the man holding Bianca's arm. The impact sends the aggressor flying, making him crash into a table. The man was trying to take his fiancée by force. In response, Crash confronts him and demands to know what he thinks he is doing. He questions why the man dared to take his betrothed against her will. The man reacts in shock to the accusation. Crash points out that he was putting his hands on a 12-year-old girl, his fury evident. He asks if the man has that kind of taste, and the frightened guard vehemently denies it. The man defends himself, claiming he was only following orders from Princess Clea. Crash is surprised to hear the name Clea Stalin. The second princess ordered him to take Lady Bianca, and since she resisted, he had to use force. Bianca watches everything in silence, and Crash decides to believe the man's story. After all, she is the youngest daughter of the Hardened Hearts, the rulers of the North, and the curse has tarnished the family's reputation among the nobles. Crash wonders why the princess would go to the trouble of summoning Bianca personally. He is certain that something is wrong. He searches for the real reason behind the princess's order. Then another connection forms in his mind. Someone close to the princess. The memory of that malicious boy's face surfaces. It was Annex, the man who obsessively stalked his sister. Even after his defeat at the Star Sanctuary, Annex's hatred and sick admiration for Charlotte persist. Annex knows he can never defeat Charlotte, so now his sights are set on him. Crash now understands the stalker's plan. With the truth in mind, Crash turns back to the guard. His attitude changes completely, and he allows the man to carry out his task. However, he sets one condition. He wants to see Lord Annex, not the second princess. He states that the guard serves the princess without knowing who is really pulling the strings. And so he and Bianca head to the meeting with the princess and Lord Annex. The two of them walk down the hall towards their destination. On the way, Crash reflects on why Bianca refused the order. He is able to unravel the plot because he has lived through all this before. But Bianca, at only 12 years old, should not be able to sense the danger. He then asks his fiancée why she disobeyed the princess's summons. She replies that she was only obeying his order to wait in that spot. Crash Valheim smiles, realizing the girl's total innocence. He pats her head and tells her she did a good job. Suddenly, Annex starts to laugh. He is surprised to see the protagonist arrive. Crash says he came to see him, and Annex is pleased with the answer. The order was to allow young Master Crash inside the moment he arrived. The protagonist realizes the order was meant for Treso, Barak Hogma. He wonders who considered him such a skilled dual-wielding swordsman and where it all went wrong. Crash is relieved to learn that Annex gave an order to help him. Annex is curious about Crash Valheim and wants to fight him. Crash fought Charlotte even though it is forbidden in the sanctuary, and that is why Annex believes facing him will be easy. Although both are experts, Annex's level is higher and his battle sense is unpredictable, making it impossible for Crash to read his movements. Before facing Annex, Crash wants to avoid a confrontation with this man. But seeing the look in Tresso's eyes, he knows his opponent will not give up the fight so easily. Tresso clenches his fists, concentrating his mana for a powerful punch. The massive blow hurtles toward Crash, who dodges and prepares a counterattack. He slides to evade Tresso's attack. Tresso performs an acrobatic flip to dodge the protagonist's strike. Crash gets back on his feet, ready for another attack. He kicks Tresso with all his strength, and the blow connects. His gaze is one of rage and precision fixed on his enemy. Then he unleashes the one-in punch onto Grasso. The impact slams his enemy to the ground, knocking him unconscious. The protagonist sighs, ending the fight quickly and easily. Moments later, he wakes up and accuses Crash Valheim of being cruel. Crash replies that he was the one who challenged him and that he could have avoided the fight. Now Tigresso says he will get his weapon so they can fight again. The young master asks if Tresso can even continue the fight. Even though he is injured, he smiles, confident about a second round. However, he suddenly collapses from the damage sustained in the fight. He passes out completely, unable to continue to a second round. He explains to Bianca that he used a secret family technique in the fight. The one-in punch came from a failure of the Valheim family. It is a secret technique that unleashes maximum destructive power at close range and causes internal damage before his return. It was the only technique he managed to salvage from the burning mansion. Thanks to it, he survived countless life or death situations. He used his best technique, and he knows Tresso will not be getting up for a long time. He says they can now enter the hall since their opponent will no longer be in the way. They open the door ready to face their targets. They find a man and a woman leaning on the balcony of the sanctuary. Someone approaches and calls for Baal. The man finds it hilarious that they managed to defeat Barak Hagma. Crash knows that Annex used the second princess to lure him to this location. He realizes Annex is not here for her, but came directly for him. Annex concludes the rumors are false since Crash figured it all out on his own. Crash challenges him to a duel and declares there will be a consequence if he loses. He states that the rumors will change after this fight because he intends to steal his ability. If the rumors call him a failure, then defeating him today will change that story. Annex Glazer watches Crash as he speaks. They were together from the academy to the Blue Generation. In his past life, they were old friends. They went through many trials together, but that friendship only existed because Crash was useful to Glazer. And that usefulness was revealed for the worst possible reason. The moment came when everyone in their group died, leaving Crash in complete despair. He begged Annex Glazer for help. Annex knew that if anyone found out the trap was his fault, he would lose his place in the Blue Generation. Crash said that if he was the only one to survive, no one would have to know the truth. He argued that the internal power struggles were complicated and that Annex would be expelled because of a single incident. Upon hearing all that, Annex made his decision because he did not want to be expelled. He would blame it all on Crash since everyone hated him, and the truth about the incident would be forgotten. In response, Annex thanked Crash for being his friend until the end. Crash was hanging from the edge of a cliff, blind with rage against Glazer. He screamed that he had only been with Annex from the start because of Charlotte, and that the tragedy happened because he was distracted by his desire to marry her. Glazer retorted that this was the exact reason he hated Crash Valheim. He accused him of having no talent, but possessing a sharp intuition that always got in his way. And since Charlotte was getting married, their relationship would end that day. Annex said that maybe this was for the best for both of them. After all, Charlotte would not want a funeral on her wedding day. Crash's strength gave out, and he let go of the rock he was holding. As his body fell from the cliff, he wondered if his life would end like this until someone grabbed his hand. It was Arthur, and the two of them ended up on the same team. However, that was the beginning of an even bigger catastrophe. After that, Annex was expelled from the Blue Generation because of Arthur's testimony, and in his desperation, he tried to marry the princess. Back in the present, Annex comments that Crash's face and way of speaking are identical to Charlotte's. Hearing this enrages the hero as he remembers the past and sees that his enemy has not changed at all. He orders Annex not to speak his sister's name so casually. With power concentrated in his hands, he charges toward the enemy. He declares that just like his sister, he never runs from a fight and always goes on the attack. Annex Glazer shows no reaction. A tree erupts from the ground to block his punch. The hero grabs the branch, preparing an acrobatic move. He then vaults onto the branch to launch another attack, but the branch beneath his feet begins to break apart. It coils around his ankle as if it were alive. Then the tree root grabs him by the foot and hurls him away. He slams into the ground and more branches instantly erupt to pin him down. He finally breaks free from the branches and takes a fighting stance once more. But exhaustion begins to set in just as he predicted. This is a difficult fight. Annex asks if that is all he has and suggests he use a weapon against the Glazer family's secret technique, the celestial wood style. He combines his recovery ability to manipulate various plants, reinforcing them with his aura. The hero picks up a piece of wood and asks if this is the weapon he wanted. He declares he will fight using the same kind of branch his opponent is so fond of. Glazer is insulted by young Master Valheim's attitude. He challenges him to block his Ru attacks with nothing but that small branch. In that instant, the boy rushes forward, dodging every attack with apparent ease. His agility surprises Glazer, who watches him evade every strike. It would make sense if he were a genius like Charlotte, but he is just the family failure. Glazer wonders if he has awakened the mind's eye to Crash. He is no different from any other enemy, and that is his greatest advantage, because in his past life, he saw these same skills until he was sick of them. He knows that Annex is easily distracted whenever he thinks about Charlotte. Taking advantage of a moment of silence, the hero realizes his opponent is thinking about Charlotte again. In response, Annex uses his magic to summon an enormous tree trunk for his next attack. The hero shields his face from the cloud of dust rushing toward him. Annex uses the fifth form of the celestial wood style to create a monster, the wooden giant. He warns that the fight is about to get harder and tells his opponent to be careful. The princess watches and says that Annex should not have done that. After all, if young Master Crash takes a direct hit, there will be a serious problem. As she fears the irreversible consequences, the wooden giant readies a punch aimed at the boy. The hero, however, shows no fear. He already seems to have a plan to deal with the threat. Among the books in the mansion's library, there is a tiny secret manual. Its author and ancestor of the family was a man with no talent who wielded his sword until the age of 80, repeating the same training infinitely. The manual written in his final years is short and describes swinging practices and a technique that requires total unity between the swordsman and the sword. However, having faced similar situations many times because of his curse, he understands the ancestor's secret technique. He and the sword become one, and he swings it in a single motion. In that strike, he accesses a specific dimension and delivers a clean cut that eliminates the wooden giant. He defeats the monster using only a branch, not a sword. The princess is in complete shock at the scene. Annex Glazer also cannot believe what he sees. Our hero emerges from the smoke, drawing his opponent's attention. He throws the branch on the ground and warns him not to be so arrogant next time. However, our hero is also exhausted after eliminating the wooden giant. His plan was to hold back just enough to make stealing the skill easier, but he used all his strength and now he cannot move a muscle or even speak. Bianca then appears, hugs him, and says she will help Crash. She presses hard on his chest as if trying to stop him from choking. At this rate, Crash will die, and the others ask her to stop. A man then puts him on his back and takes him to the infirmary. Everyone in the hall erupts into commotion upon realizing he defeated Annex in combat. Rumors spread quickly about the family's good-for-nothing who defeated a noble. No one had planned for something of this magnitude, and the boy will become a celebrity when he wakes up. Besides, something interesting also happened during the fight. Annex's expression worries him, giving him a bad feeling that something is about to happen. The King of Alchemy then states that he cannot die before helping with his research. Our hero wakes up and a while later returns to his training. A week passes since his return from the Star Sanctuary. He recovers from the damage of the sword, aware that his condition would be worse than Annex's if he had used it any longer. If he had not passed out, he could have finished the preparations to steal his opponent's ability. And Crash has two ways in mind to do this. The first method is to unlock the Black Hood's padlock, and the second is to induce the opponent. The method he intends to use is the second one. This method is considered easy, as long as one can overwhelmingly defeat the opponent. Since the wooden giant fell with a single attack, the doubt Annex feels spreads like waves. Losing to the worthless man he despised makes him doubt his own abilities. Even if it takes time, his recovery ability will eventually belong to Crash. This is because he intends to train every day for the next year until the academy to overcome his genes. In that instant, his butler appears to address the young master. He informs him that Belikanin, his older brother, has just arrived at the Green Pine Mansion. Unable to ignore his presence any longer, he allows his brother to enter the mansion. Bianca offers him a glass of water after his intense training. She also comments on the smell of his sweat. He knows that impurities are expelled when expanding his aura, and he did not even notice the foul smell. She asks if he should not take a bath before meeting his brother. Faced with his refusal, she asks him to stay away because of the odor. He asks if she is giving orders to her own fiancé. He realizes how much Bianca has grown after the recent events. Then she starts running away from him, which surprises him. He sees her as a younger sister and cannot resist teasing her. His acquaintances from before the regression would be watching him coldly now. He immediately thinks of Lord Arthur's reaction, which would be completely apathetic. He believes Arthur would call him soft and say that at this rate he would not be able to stop the world's destruction. Thinking of Arthur makes his mind wander for a moment. He hates to admit that, except for the final moment. Arthur was always a hero on the front lines who never let his guard down. The teasing is interrupted when his older brother finally appears. Bellican in Valheim notices the two are having fun and accuses his brother of flirting with his fiancée. The protagonist replies that everyone needs some time to have fun. He reflects that the boy who was once so scared he would not even make eye contact now stares at him directly. He confirms that the rumors about defeating Onyx have spread and asks the reason for his visit to the Green Pine Mansion. He replies that he heard the academy will accept students based on exam results instead of status. In response, the protagonist states that his brother should start preparing. Insulted, Bellican realizes the boy is deliberately provoking him. Even the strongest empire in the world fears the Valheim family and does not dare to attack the kingdom of Strion. His family is on a completely different level from the other noble houses, and he is a direct descendant. He finds it absurd that his brother tells him to prepare for the exams and is unimpressed by the victory against Onyx. He replies that it is natural for a commoner to worry about what can be gained at the academy. Seeing that his brother does not react with offense, he asks what kind of attitude this is. He reveals that he came to the Green Pine Mansion to deliver an order to his younger brother. The order is to stop the world erosion that occurred on Mount Gerlach. The young man argues that he is only 15, but his brother replies that he will accompany him as a guardian and tells him not to be afraid. He realizes his brother wants to test his strength and keep him under control, and so he agrees to go along. He is more accustomed to fighting the corrosion than to living a peaceful life. Even if it is a trap, he has a plan. He informs Bianca that he will be away to handle the corrosion mission and asks her not to follow him. She replies that she will not follow him and calmly obeys. She comments that it is absurd to send a 13-year-old child to handle this type of mission. Upon hearing the words of the cursed princess, his older brother complains. He protects his fiancée, saying that his brother should not take the words of a 12-year-old child seriously. This statement directly insults his brother's intelligence. The brother reacts with fury to his words. He turns his back and leaves, offended by his younger brother's provocation. Then he tells Bianca that she did a good job, even without knowing exactly what she did. He adds that even without understanding, the lady will be happy with the result. As he strokes his fiancée's head, she asks him not to faint again. He picks up his weapon and states that he is leaving for the mission alongside his brother. The world corrosion is a phenomenon where the world is invaded by another dimension, causing new species to emerge. Over time, drastic changes occur in the environment and the corrosion expands. This results in entire areas transforming into otherworldly landscapes like Mount Gerlach, which rotted. The area is classified as a 3-star corrosion, and the purification team reports that the work will begin after the boss is defeated. The 3-star level is a challenge that would trouble even an experienced Order of Knights. Despite appearances, Bellican is a Heil expert, capable of defeating the boss of the corrupted zone with ease. At this moment, however, he makes a request to his brother, Crash. He says that he brought him here so that he, a low-level specialist, can gain some experience. Crash pretends to believe him, but he knows his brother has a hidden motive. The reason he followed him, even while aware of the pressure being applied, is to test a temporary solution for his own power surges. In that instant, they strike down a bizarre insect from the corrupted dimension. The knights comment that at this rate, the combat will never end. Crash points to a headless, corroded creature covered in teeth and warns that they must protect their bodies with aura because its bite causes swelling. The knights ask if Crash has ever fought in a corrupted world before. One of them observes that it is already strange for a 13-year-old boy to get so close to a zone like this. His brother comments that for someone so useless, he is far too calm in his first corrupted zone. After all, when he himself saw a corrupted zone at 15, His pride was shattered. He wonders how his younger brother can give advice to the knights, a reaction completely different from his own first experience. Seeing the smile on Crash's face, he tries not to compare himself to the boy. His ego is already shaken by his younger brother's performance. He grips the sword with trembling hands, watching his brother instruct the knights. Then he activates an aura that envelops the blade of his sword. A specific hypothesis forms in his mind. He fears that Crash, just like Charlotte, grows to surpass him. In that scenario, Bellicanine becomes the useless one of Valheim, a fate he refuses to accept. In that instant, he charges forward and attacks some nearby monsters. He warns that they are approaching the boss area and then steps into a red mist. Bellicanine comments that they are lucky as the situation seems easier than his first time with no other corrupted species besides the boss. The hero retorts that this is all the more reason to keep their guard up as the situation is too strange. He suspects there must be a 3-star boss powerful enough to maintain all the corrosion by itself. His brother orders the knights not to be scared or shaken by the child's words. He claims that it is just a 3-star boss and that they will finish this to return as quickly as possible. The hero tries to focus on the task until a vision leaves him completely paralyzed. Thanks to the extreme immersion poison in his blood, he can see the energy of the corrupted world more clearly than before the regression. He holds the mask, aware that he needs to swallow this reality. The tension mounts as the decisive moment approaches. Amidst the smoke, his body contorts and a violent nausea hits him. He vomits a large amount of vital fluid, the process leaving him severely injured. Someone asks if Lord Crash is all right, but his brother interferes, saying he just stumbled from overexerting himself. The protagonist assures them he is fine, admitting he did not expect to vomit, but the corrupted energy acts like a poison, so this reaction is expected. He has no other choice. He masters the extreme immersion poison in the blood, as instructed in the secret manual, and now tries to fuse his aura with the energy. His aura circulates like a great river, absorbing the corrupted energy and creating a new color, a hue that cannot be overwritten. This is the side effect of the surge, a consequence that leaves him terrified. He knows that under normal conditions, he would not have endured such an ordeal. He begins to channel his aura to use a secret technique from the Seikakan, a place he believed had been erased from history. Bellicanine, the protagonist's older brother, widens his eyes in shock. The protagonist reacts the same way as his brother. Terrified in the face of the monster, this monster is Senenki, the demon of 1,000 faces. It prepares for combat. He orders everyone to prepare for the impending battle. The protagonist's older brother begins to envelop his sword in ice. Immediately after, he energizes it with fire. Then the sword grows and becomes completely engulfed in flames. Bellicanine's ability is always impressive with immense destructive power. The protagonist knows this is Ignis, the sermon ability. This same ability burned his arm in his past life, when his brother wanted to show the power gap between them. Now he watches Bellicanine ignite his sword to defeat the enemy. Before the regression, his brother was completely insane. Now he shows a very different demeanor, and the protagonist wonders if he is normal. However, the protagonist hopes that he has changed. Suddenly, a skill is used and steals someone's face. One of the knights comments that it is a curse that erases faces. He adds that even the most experienced have trouble against those 8 arms. If the situation has come to this, the only choice is to flee. But the protagonist's older brother disagrees and orders them to fight. He unleashes a flaming slash against the creature they face in combat. The creature starts to catch fire, and its many faces express the monster's agony. Then the creature falls to the ground after receiving the powerful flaming strike. Bellicanine shouts at them not to give up because he is creating an opening. The knights at his side are surprised by his leadership. As expected, even the boss is powerless against him. The protagonist wonders if someone has died since he cannot find him anywhere. He realizes his brother's gaze is fixed on the 1,000-faced demon, not on him. His older brother is completely focused on the area boss. At this critical moment, a vital fluid pours from the monster's eyes like tears. Its many faces shed the vital fluid, crying in agony. The protagonist is certain that something is wrong with the monster. He knows that at this rate, the situation will become dangerous for the group. Immediately after, his older brother leaps onto the creature, preparing another attack. Bellicanine feels the immense pressure emanating from the creature. He knows they must eliminate the demon now before some anomaly occurs. He orders all the knights to attack at once, and he himself charges into the fight. The creature absorbs his aura attack which has no effect at all. He orders his knights to launch the next attack before the monster transforms any further. After all, the Knights of Valheim should not be intimidated by something like this. He asks what exactly they are doing, noticing that they are all standing still. Then the protagonist's older brother realizes he has fallen under the curse of the thousand-faced demon without even touching it. He feels a strange sensation as his face begins to melt. He realizes he is caught in the curse. His face is erased and he stands motionless before the monster. Suddenly, rain begins to fall and a storm approaches. The protagonist realizes the situation is turning against them. The brothers feel they are going to die in this dire situation. He is certain that at this rate, his end is all that awaits. The thousand-faced demon is nearby and he wonders how far they have come. The conclusion is that they have walked for a long time without reaching the outside, which means the world corrosion is an enclosed space. He thinks they cannot leave unless they defeat the demon. The thought that this is his end begins to take hold of him. He has visions of Charlotte who speaks to him. She advises Belikanin on how he can survive. He tries to flee from the creature which pursues him with full force. He is terrified by the creature's size and its obvious level of danger. He draws his sword and imbues it with a flaming aura to face the demon. He smashes his sword against the creature's immense hand, starting a clash of brute force. At that moment, the rain grows heavier. It falls without end, soaking the entire area. He falls to the ground, overcome with despair. The damage from the battle hinders his recovery, but his brother drags him by the legs to pull them out of the danger zone. In the distance, they watch the knights still fighting the thousand-faced demon. Belikanin wants to go back and help, but right now they are in no condition to fight. He reflects on the battle and the immense strength of the enemy they face. After the difficult fight against the monster, his brother retrieves his sword. Belikanin grinds his teeth, hopeless in the face of the corrosion that surrounds them. Seeing the monsters all around, he feels they will not make it out alive. He is certain that at this rate the end is all that awaits them. With the thousand-faced demon nearby, he asks how far they still are from the exit. His brother replies they have walked for a long time without finding a way out, suggesting the world corrosion is an enclosed space. He concludes they cannot escape unless they defeat the demon. But in that instant, Crash Valheim reveals he has a way to win this fight. His brother says he has a secret technique that Charlotte taught him. This same secret technique is how he was able to fight Annex of the Star Sanctuary. Apparently, Charlotte had special feelings for the brothers, perhaps from the very beginning. Belikanin asks his younger brother if he can really defeat the demon with this technique. Instead of just avoiding the enemy and wandering lost through the corrupted area, they decide to take the risk. He understands his brother's doubt, but still extends a hand to help him. He then asks his brother if he trusts their sister's ability. Belikanin replies that Charlotte is a genius, and so he trusts her ability. But if they fail, it will be the end for both brothers. Crash smiles and declares that there is no way he will fail. They stand in a terrible place, ravaged by the world corrosion. The two brothers await the demon's approach. He asks his brother if the Ignis ability is ready. His brother confirms and says they will begin the plan. Crash rises and steadies his stance. A powerful aura emanates from him, completely enveloping his body. He closes his eyes and concentrates to activate the ability. Belikanin is stunned as he witnesses his younger brother's mature aura. Crash Valheim's sword expands, continuously releasing energy. His brother wonders what kind of focus this is, what kind of aura surrounds him. He has never seen such a pure aura before. He hesitated when Charlotte asked to add the flames of Ignis to her secret technique. Despite all his practice, he never mastered that aura, but his brother somehow did. Crash asks for some of his brother's Ignis, and he complies. He hands over his fire magic, concentrating the power at the tip of the sword. Crash is engulfed by his brother's Ignis magic, and his body is covered in flames. His sword also grows, its blade consumed by embers. He then points out a problem to his brother. He says he cannot maintain the technique for long and asks his brother to buy him time. His brother watches the flames burning with an intensity he himself could never achieve. With that sword, he can likely defeat the demon of 1,000 faces. He remembers how he lost his subordinates in an instant, and how he could only run for his life. If Crash defeats the demon, it will mean something. It means he is weaker than the Valheim family's failure. Crash needs just one strike to end the demon. He prepares the strike, his sword breathed in the flames of his brother's Ignis. He unleashes the attack perfectly right before Belikanin's very eyes. It is a single strike meant to defeat the monster cleanly. As Belikanin watches the scene, he is left in shock. The creature is engulfed in flames, and with a single strike, The boy finishes it. With the creature's death, the raging storm ceases and the sky begins to shine again. Seeing the sun, Crash calls out to his older brother. He says the terrible situation is finally over. Belakanin is shocked to see how easily he accomplished it all. He begins to laugh and draws his sword. He screams at his brother, intending to eliminate him. He strikes with his sword, but Crash defends using Ignis magic on his own blade. Belakanin is shocked to see it. He wonders why he cannot use Ignis, and Crash thanks Belakanin. He thanks his brother for never changing, for being so predictable. The conditions to unlock Belakanin were clear. First, he had to willingly give a part of his Ignis to an opponent. Second, he had to acknowledge that this person controlled Ignis better than he did. And finally, his pride had to collapse. As this happens, Crash attacks his brother, severely wounding Belakanin. The flames finally incinerate the monster completely. He tears a piece from the monster with his sword. He remembers how in the beginning, he only wished to get along with his brothers. But no matter how hard he tried, that wish never came true. And he was never loved by his brother. The cause of it all was the hostility of Bello Valheim. He still holds a spark of hope that this time, Bloken will recognize him as his brother. With no other choice, he forces the piece of the monster into his brother's mouth. Seeing him writhe in pain, he recalls the sensation is the same as when he was burned on his arms and face. That is why he just watches his older brother writhe in agony. He watches until his brother's legs stop moving. Ignoring the scene below, he raises his gaze to the sky. He notes the irony of such a beautiful day and lets out a low laugh. The news that Lord Belen's Order of Knights has been decimated is announced at the main Valheim house. The corrosion level is raised to 5 stars, requiring a high-class specialist to defeat the monster. The story told is that if Lord Belakanin had not sacrificed himself, Crash would not have survived. Belakanin's personal butler weeps on hearing that his master sacrificed himself to save the useless member of the family. The head butler of Valheim announces that the brother saved by Belison's sacrifice is present. He listens to the conversation where they state that Belen's honorable death cannot be in vain. He realizes they believed his testimony and that he no longer needs to worry about it. Thanks to his brother, he obtained many results on this expedition. He confirmed that he can control the surges that occur in his 6th sense. He became more adept in the use of the extreme blood immersion poison. And through Ignis, he even gained the power of the black flames. Ignis is an ability that can set anything on fire. And when applied to the power of world corrosion, it acquired the effect of the dark flame. His only problem to solve at the main house is the investigation into the abnormal phenomena in the world corrosion zones. He knocks on the door and receives permission to enter. Hearing that the cause of the erosion is still unknown, even if it is the work of a world corridor, its main body is submerged in an eternal dream, and it can only see the real world through its undead minions. He fears running into one of them now that they have started to move. Saphira, a 4th-class investigator from the World Corrosion Investigation, is waiting for him. He notices a black star on the woman's neck. The sight of the black star leaves him in shock. He thinks that he did not expect to find her so soon. He calls her an undead and states that he wishes to make a contract with her. He points his finger at her and declares that he will erase her immortality. She smiles, realizing that he is the regressor. Surprised, she drops her disguise and reveals her true sinister form. The Crimson Immortal, Garden August, is imprisoned. In the previous timeline, under Arthur's orders, an attempt to steal her immortality fails. Arthur explains that the Immortal will be trapped in a cycle of regeneration, unable to command her forces. The reason the Immortal has so many minions is that a curse prevents her real body from moving. The woman questions what is so regrettable about this, recalling the problems they faced when she raised the level of the corruption zone. Lady Sigrun warns her not to feign innocence, even if that was not her true intention. Arthur interrupts, stating that this will solve the Immortal's problem and orders an end to the useless discussion. For him, however, the situation is a shame. He regrets that Crash failed to steal the curse of immortality. Even if the boy is reborn, the task will remain impossible for him. The condition for success is absolute. He would need to become stronger than the Immortal herself. Back in the present, the woman smiles and asks if he is the regressor. She reveals her true face and declares she has found something completely useless. He responds by asking why she believes he is the regressor. She explains that a mere child proposing such a bold deal can only be a regressor. She accuses him of lying since a regressor trapped in the gears of time could not eliminate a being who transcends time itself. The boy points his hand, his ability active, and assures her he is not lying. After all, his ability is capable of stealing her immortality. He uses the Black Hood's ability and a purple spectral hand envelops the woman. She clenches her fist, beginning to manifest her own energy. To find someone capable of eliminating her, she continued to increase the world's corrosion. And now, someone capable of stealing her curse of immortality finally appears. He presents his condition. He needs her help to become stronger. He explains that the ability can only be activated when he becomes stronger than her. He would become her disciple, and in return she would sell her own soul to be free of the curse. Crimson Garden. August promises to make him the strongest man in the world and accepts the deal. It is absurd to be dominated this way by her aura alone, without her true body present. Crimson Garden is powerful enough to rival Arthur and his strongest subordinates. Even if he must borrow the power of a corruptor, he needs to stop the corrosion that annihilates the world. In this life, the regression ability has returned to Arthur, making it impossible for him to regress again by his own will. If the world is destroyed again in this life, his own existence will disappear. That is why from now on, he and the Crimson Immortal will work together. When he calls her Crim, the woman reacts with surprise. She says his name, Crash, out loud. She places her hand on his head and orders him to call her master. With that settled, he finally sets off for his home. He explains that he came to this place many years ago, but he does not live here anymore. Valkyrie, the Lady of Valheim of the Direct Order of Knights, appears, and he can barely recall his own parents' faces. His mother explains that she did not reveal herself at the Pine Mansion, but became interested after hearing rumors about his changes. She introduces herself as his mother. She informs him that the Lord of the House wanted to see him immediately upon returning from the Forbidden Domain. His father traveled to a demigod's realm and through the stars sent something related to his son. For that reason, Arya instructs him to remain at the main house until his father returns. He refuses to waste time at the main house because his fiancée Bianca is waiting for him. He says he will return when his father arrives and calls for him, a response that surprises his mother. Through the window, she watches him leave. She reflects that maybe his father can see him in person, and so he takes a carriage and arrives in a village. The journey continues along a simple dirt road. He feels free, believing he will not have to return to the house of Valheim for some time. The woman calls him an ill-mannered disciple and demands he open the door for her. Seeing her in the form of a red tree, he comments that the color is too conspicuous. In response, she transforms into a black crow and says she will change her color as many times as needed. She teases him, saying she is now a black crow, the same color as his eyes. She reveals that her true body cannot move and calls him a foolish regressor. He is an incomplete regressor using the ability of the true Arthur, but he keeps this secret from Crim. Finally, they arrive at the Green Pine Mansion. He warns Crim to be nice to a white chick who lives in the mansion. She finds it strange that there would be a chick in a mansion. At that moment, Bianca appears dressed as a white bird to welcome him. Crim realizes the white chick her master warned her about is actually his wife. Ariad also appears, and he asks if anything out of the ordinary happened. He informs him that a letter from Darlin Danfelion has arrived. In the letter, Darlin says the discoloration medicine is ready and that he prepared it quickly. He orders Arya to treat Darlin very well should he visit the mansion, because he is a benefactor. The butler reveals that Bianca was worried about him the entire time he was away. Her concern grew when she heard he was involved in the corrosion incident. She even asked for a carriage to be prepared for her. He realizes that he has not checked Bianca's condition recently. Finally, the first condition for Bianca's friendship is fulfilled. The first condition is unlocked, greatly surprising the hero. She asks if there is something wrong with her face. The hero denies it and says he just wanted to introduce a new friend. He introduces the creature as Crim, and the girl takes it in her hands without hesitating. She hugs it tightly as if it were a stuffed animal. The hero tries to warn her that Crim will not like the gesture. Now he wants to figure out how to unlock the lock on her friendship. Normally, an important person is a family member, a friend, or a lover, and the last option seems the most likely. Then she releases Crim, who flies off completely disoriented. However, the hero does not want to become the lover of an emotionless Bianca. These were not the conditions before his regression, and besides, he is an adult on the inside. The pale girl seems to like Crim and refuses to let him go, so he decides to have a serious talk with Crash. He wants to test his own strength and heads to the training area. Crash considers his level pathetic for a regressor. He states that the young man has mediocre talent. Even using his past experiences and secret techniques, he barely manages a decent result. But all this effort can be surpassed by a true genius in less than 5 years. However, Crash has a proposal. This only applies to talent, which means nothing in the face of Crim, because the hero has a unique skill, the ability to steal talent from others. He never would have escaped rock bottom, but now this body will lift him up to conquer everything from the heights. And finally, Crash has one last thing to add. Assuming a human form, he declares that in the end, he can even steal his immortality. The hero watches and feels motivated by the immortal's words. He replies that it goes without saying, and that he will obviously steal his immortality in the end. A few days pass and Darling arrives at the Green Pine Mansion to meet the hero. She calls him dear and asks if she kept him waiting long. The protagonist asks if she brought what he asked for. Then Darling reveals the darkening potion intended for the butler's daughter. The protagonist comments that Darling has always been an alchemy genius, and he thanks her. However, something seems to be bothering the alchemist. Suddenly, she hugs the hero, which leaves Crash visibly irritated. He pushes him away, but Darling insists he needs to tell him something. The alchemist reveals that Annex has changed. Annex had stopped training after losing to Charlotte, but returned to his routine after the incident at the Star Sanctuary. The hero realizes his rival was inspired after losing to him at the Sanctuary. He tells Darling that if he is done talking, he can leave as he now has plans beyond Valheim. The crow intervenes, saying he was already planning to use the alchemist to strengthen the boy's mediocre body. Anyway, he orders Darling to prepare a few items like a potion that enhances physical attributes and aura. These elixirs are extremely expensive, and their secret crafting techniques are closely guarded. They are items for a select few far beyond his reach, but the crow knows the formula and just needs to pass it on to Darling. The crow then asks if there is anything else he should expect before the tournament. After hearing about Annex, the hero asks Darling to craft a specific elixir for him. Darling asks if he has money for the materials, and the boy claims he will find a way using knowledge from his past life. The crow asks him to repeat the ingredients so Darling can write them down. The hero then begins to list the materials for the King of Alchemy. Darling is visibly confused by some of the components on the list. He begins to write down everything the boy says so he will not forget anything. The alchemist asks where he got that information, and the hero replies that it is a secret family formula. Darling says the only problem will be getting all the materials. He explains that it is impossible to get Sun Snow's core or the Golden Dragon herb. Suno's core is only found in the steep corrupted mountains to the north in Hardnart territory. The Golden Dragon herb is a phantom item that grows near Golden Dragon nests in the remote regions of the Empire. They could buy it on the black market, but if the Empire found out, the consequences would be disastrous. The hero decides that if there is no other way, he will have to find a black market merchant. Darling then suggests the Epiphania Empire's martial arts tournament for use under 15, where the prize is the Golden Dragon herb. The hero remembers he is from Valheim and that the Empire uses the tournament to gain political leverage against the Academy, which would complicate everything. Despite this, he claims to have a plan and says he will use his genius to execute it. The hero sees Darling with a potion in his hand and asks if he should drink it. As soon as he drinks the liquid, his hair begins to grow uncontrollably and he lets out a scream. He realizes he has turned into a woman, a disguise to prevent his identity from being exposed during the tournament. Darling hugs him and says that all he needs to do now is enter the competition as a girl. The crow watches the entire scene, incredulous at what he is seeing. In response, the protagonist activates his cursed stealing ability to frighten Darling. Terrified, the alchemist immediately apologizes. A few days pass, and the hero now trains intensely with the crow. He concentrates his energy while the crow concentrates his. Red energy envelops his entire body, and then he beats his wings. With this motion, he fires blasts of magic toward the protagonist. He senses the waves approaching, but keeps his eyes closed. Finally, he opens his eyes and prepares to defend against the magical waves. He uses his sword to protect himself, cutting through the advancing energy. With a series of swift movements, the hero manages to cut and deflect the blows. However, one of the attacks hits him and knocks him to the ground. Krim orders the training to end. The Pure Blade technique taught this time is a style that reads the attacks of high enemies to instantly comprehend their movements. Combined with his natural intuition and sixth sense, the technique leads him to the realm of clairvoyance. If he uses elixirs to strengthen his body, his movements will match his thoughts, and he will grow stronger. The crow announces it is almost time to leave. The protagonist gets dressed and asks if they should leave now. While carrying a potion, the crow asks if he remembered to bring what was requested. A few days prior, he learned that this medicine would make him undetectable since no magic can perceive him. The hero regrets not using this sooner instead of being turned into a woman by a prank. He was told the transformation would last for an entire day. This left him stuck in that form for a day. And even knowing Darling was trustworthy, the situation left him exhausted. Aliad, the butler, is already waiting for the hero when he arrives at the meeting point. He explains that he made an offer to Fluker, a merchant from the lawless zone who will help him enter legally. She is a merchant of corrupted species and will cross the border with him. Thanks to the butler, he can leave the mansion without any worries. The butler assures him that he can leave everything in his hands as everything will work out. He states that he will let absolutely no one enter, not even the head of the Valheim family. After Darling hands over the medicine for the discoloration disease, the young master says goodbye. The butler thanks him for curing his daughter, saying he can now die without regrets. The hero replies that if he is truly grateful, he must keep living and not dare to leave this world until he receives permission. It is a small price to pay compared to his daughter's life. In response, the butler begins to cry. He cries intensely and shouts that he will survive no matter what. Crash. Valheim realizes he can finally stop worrying about Aliad's betrayal, something that happened in his past life. Next, the protagonist goes to speak with Bianca. He thanks her for accepting his request. She says it has been a long time since she went home and that she will now get some rest, stating she will obtain the sun's snow fungus and then return. She will be waiting for him at the Green Pine Mansion when he finishes his mission. The hero promises to try to return as quickly as possible to his fiancée. He understands that was why there was so much noise the day before, and then he notices she made sandwiches for him. When he says he will eat them later, she does not show much of a reaction. She wishes Crash a safe journey, and he thanks her, wishing her the same. And so he and the crow depart for the Empire, with him in the carriage and the bird flying alongside. The protagonist wields his flaming sword in the middle of combat. With his hand, he rips out and absorbs a curse from his target. Thanks to the sixth sense, he notices that the power of corruption in the area remains stable. The cargo follows a route that avoids the sundered lands, and because of this, he is unable to absorb any curses until Krim notices a rotten apple falling from a tree. The detail catches his eye right after he comments on how the butler chose a safe route. He realizes that something is trying to stop the carriage. A group of bandits holds a girl, their intentions the worst imaginable. His companion is in shock because she could not sense the bandit's presence. The girl thinks she is going to die, but something stops the bandit just as he is about to commit the act. A mysterious figure decapitates the aggressor, saving the girl from the imminent violation. The protagonist uses his purple magic emanating from his hands to eliminate the criminals. One of the bandits, shocked, asks who this brat is. The bandit leader orders them to eliminate the boy, and they all advance on him. They surround the boy with their weapons, shouting that he has no way to defend himself. The hero summons his great sword through a magic portal, surprising everyone. He begins to slice through his enemies, eliminating the bandits with extreme ease. He cuts down another, running his sword through the man's head and ending his life instantly. He faces the lead bandit with a look filled with hatred. The bandit realizes this is no ordinary boy, and fear begins to take hold. So he tries to land a single blow to eliminate the protagonist once and for all. He strikes with his axe, but the boy blocks the attack with his sword. The protagonist activates the sixth sense and begins to predict and block every attack. The criminal shouts that cheap tricks will not work, but the protagonist replies that he could handle him even without the sixth sense. The bandit announces he will use a secret technique and tries to crush the boy's head. The hero already prepares his defense, watching the blow with clear disdain. The bandit gives a wicked look as he raises his axe to strike the boy. He uses the phantom battle axe, a strike charged with immense cursed energy. The boy watches the attack with wide eyes. The strike lets out a deafening roar. In that instant, the boy's sword is completely engulfed in flames. The sight leaves his enemy terrified, breaking out in a cold sweat before this unexpected power. The protagonist states that the technique the bandit used reveals he is a disciple of the killer dog. He claims to be a disciple of the mad dog, Belakanin, an assassin who pledged himself to the service of the world corruptor alongside the white demon Bianca. His mission was to infiltrate Stardan and eliminate many people, but Charlotte Valheim eliminated him first. With his flaming sword, he severs the bandit's arms. As a result, Charlotte gained fame throughout the Empire, and the infiltration of Stardan was delayed. This makes the protagonist wonder why Belakanin's subordinates are already in the lawless zone. He considers their appearance premature and defeats one of the mad dog's pupils, setting the man's body on fire without hesitation. A bad feeling about what is to come overwhelms him. He decides to take the golden dragon herb and flee as quickly as possible. They arrive at the imperial capital, Sun. A wooden sign indicates the registration site for the martial arts tournament. A crowd gathers to compete in the tournament. The sight of the crowd excites the fourth princess of the empire, Epiphania. She expresses a desire to take everyone to the Ron Academy, but her attendant warns her that His Majesty would be angry. The princess orders them not to mention her father or her hallucinations. Sisley's attendant tries to tell her something important, but Sisley, the emperor's youngest daughter, refuses to listen and covers her ears with her hands. At 7 years old, she possesses a brilliant mind capable of solving complex mathematical problems. Her talent is so great that many believe she can rewrite the history of the empire, a fact that is reported to His Imperial Majesty. This is how she discovers her position as an imperial candidate. Getting involved in the dispute for the throne with a fragile upbringing means immediate elimination. To survive, she needs to make everyone around her lose hope in her. So Sisley uses her brilliant mind to play the part of a completely out-of-control daughter. In the end, even those who once praised her intelligence end up giving up on her. They begin to get annoyed with her inappropriate behavior and disregard her as an imperial candidate. Her attendant notices the act, but believes she is overdoing it lately. She becomes fascinated with Crash, drawn to his narrow eyes and his dark aura. The crow on his shoulder also enchants her. She sees him as a villain and suspects he might be a Valheim, an arch-enemy of the empire. She trusts her intuition, convinced that he is a Valheim, even though the presence of a member of that family in the empire is unthinkable. So she jumps from the mezzanine, determined to confirm with her own eyes whether or not he is a Valheim. She runs towards him, intending to expose his true identity. Suddenly, she stumbles. The moment she falls, she instinctively uses telekinesis, but the protagonist catches her, stopping her from hitting the ground. He softly says she is a troublesome girl. He warns her to watch where she is going and not to trip again. She thinks that his calm tone and gentle attitude are a sign that he knows exactly who she is. The hero signs up for the martial arts tournament and looks for an inn to rest. The first one he finds is completely full. The second one is also packed with other tournament participants. A third inn also has all its rooms booked. That's why he decides he will sleep on the street that night. As he thinks about this, he hears an old woman's voice calling out to him. She says he can stay at her house since he has nowhere to stay for the tournament. The woman smiles sweetly and looks harmless. The crow finds the situation suspicious, but the hero accepts the old woman's offer. Krim comments that his mother should have taught him not to talk to strangers, but the hero is tired of sleeping on the streets since his past life. The crow considers that regressor annoying and careless, so he flies after the hero toward the old woman's house. She goes to prepare dinner and instructs him to settle into the back room on the second floor. He goes up the stairs and finds a girl standing there, looking at him. It is the same princess he met earlier at the tournament hall. The hero feels an immediate exhaustion just from looking at her. He realizes he has fallen into a trap and decides to ignore her, heading to the room to avoid trouble. He is about to open the door, but she stops him. She accuses him of ignoring a girl who is trying to talk. The hero is visibly annoyed by her words. He states that she is not his type and that there are more beautiful people in the world. He decides not to answer, and the princess finds him even more mysterious. She follows him down the hall, chattering nonstop. The hero gets irritated and orders her to stop following him. The girl insists they will have dinner together and that she wants to know more about him. The hero refuses to talk, saying he is not in the mood. She asks if he is being serious. She reminds him that she is a princess and that he should not act this way toward her. She calls him by his name, Crash of Starlon, and glares at him with a threatening look. The hero realizes she figured out his origin from a trivial conversation. She reinforces that it is unacceptable for him to act that way, especially since he knows she is a princess. She calls him by his real name. A deep sense of unease takes hold of him. He denies knowing what she is talking about and treats her like a child who should finish her dinner and go to bed. She questions him, asking who he is calling a child. Her attendant asks the princess if that young man is really from Styron. The princess replies that while the language is the same, Styron has a unique intonation and pronunciation, free of the empire's accent. Noticing such a subtle difference is a feat only the princess could achieve. Her mind can analyze details an ordinary person would miss. His reaction confirms that he knows her well. The princess has an ability akin to a mind's eye. She declares that things are about to get interesting and orders them not to capture or interrogate him. She then asks if there has been any news about her sister, and the attendant confirms that everything happened exactly as the princess predicted. The third princess, Sigrun, is a completely different person than she was a year ago. Something about her is not right. This change frightens the princess, who senses imminent danger. That bad feeling was right. At this rate, The first and second princes are in grave danger. Sadness consumes her, for a rain of blood is about to fall upon the imperial palace. Meanwhile, the hero eliminates bandits with brutal strikes. A single punch is strong enough to send a man flying through the air. He takes down all his enemies with overwhelming force, and with the preliminaries over, the four victors withdraw. Everyone's attention turns to the narrow-eyed man, a possible resident of the underworld, always accompanied by a strange crow on his shoulder. His dark expression is because of the girl who has been bothering him since yesterday. He is annoyed that he failed to extract any information from her during their brief conversation. Still, he feels a certain sense of relief. The encounter did not affect his performance in the preliminaries, where he defeated multiple participants at once. The preliminaries pit teams of 100 against each other, with only the top 4 advancing. He won with an absurd difference in power. Someone approaches and comments on the suspicious crow on his shoulder, confirming the rumors. The hero finds the bandaged man's approach strange. The man who looks like a mummy identifies him as a member of the infamous family of assassins, the Night Crows. The Night Crows are not part of the Empire and are feared as the most dangerous force in the underworld, having played a role in the fall of nations. He claims that as an outsider, he does not know everything, but he has never heard of a member of that family joining the academy, and says the man is mistaken. The bandaged young man says he does not care who is behind him, as he only wanted to connect with other residents of the underworld. He formally introduces himself to the Night Crow and then runs off. After the brief conversation, the stranger hurries away. Krim comments on the young man's ugly appearance and asks if he is bothering his master. The crow takes flight, declaring it will help its master. Somehow it manages to hypnotize the strange young man. The young man returns, walking mechanically, completely hypnotized. The crow informs its master that it used a simple mind control spell. He summons the crow to answer a question of utmost importance. He asks what happened to the Night Crows and learns they recently fell into a destructive spiral. His presence at the martial arts tournament was a direct order from his new master, the same one who led them to ruin. He asks who the new master is, and the man under his control prepares to answer. The new master is Sigrin, the second prince of the Epipania Empire and Sisley's brother. The revelation that it is the second prince sends a deep shock through the protagonist. After all, the Night Crows are a trap created by the Empire to monitor and control the movements of the nobility. The imperial family has always been in command, which makes the title of new master strange. This connection was a secret meant to be kept until the fall of the Empire. The fact that a low-ranking subordinate knows the master's identity means someone is manipulating the second prince and spreading this information. Originally, the second prince's role was to strengthen the first influence, but the plan was to get rid of him precisely to weaken the heir's power. In this scenario, the only person who benefits from the conflict is Sergeant Epipania. The mind behind the entire conspiracy is Saran Epifania. He can hardly believe it, as this confirms that Arthur's memory inheritance is truly working. If this is true, Serge's next target, now with memories of the future, is the man who sacrificed himself after hiding the Emperor's symbol, the White Dragon Pearl. His other target is the fourth princess, Cicely Epipania, the one who made Arthur an emperor in name only to one day hand him the throne she conquered. Saran has already tried to eliminate the troublesome Cicely. If she becomes empress, the empire will suffer a devastating collapse, and its fall will unleash a tide of corruption upon the world. To prevent the end of the world, he needs to interfere with her plan and steal her ability. He asks the crow for help, instructing it to return to its normal activities and act on the information it received. The crow agrees to help this time, as it was its own decision to lend its power. The crow asks what to do with the hypnotized man, and the answer is that he has already served his purpose. So the crow decides to make him one of its servants for now and flicks a feather at his face. The man begins to babble unintelligible words. The crow orders him to return to his place, and the man obeys and withdraws. The time has come to use their appearance to his advantage. They will find the real Night Crow, who is hiding in the tournament finals. Two strange-looking youths appear, and one of them is named Craig. One of them survives by eating trash in the city sewers. A member of the Night Crows confronts them, promising to teach them a lesson. This is the real Night Crow, shrouded in a macabre aura. In the main event of the martial tournament, in the round of 32, the protagonist takes down another opponent. The winner of the match is announced as Crash. The crowd erupts in cheers, chanting the name Night Crow. After his victory, a spectator admits he was tired of watching kids fight, but thanks to him, the tournament has become interesting. It is almost time for the real Night Crow to finally appear. The girl comes to watch, even after being warned not to come. That night, with the preliminaries over, She asks if he was the one who destroyed them. She is surprised to realize he is just a child. He finds her expression strange when he confirms that he is indeed a boy. She plays it off but acknowledges that his life is unusual. He asks if something happened and warns her to protect herself. Tomorrow is the day of the main event. As they prepare for sleep, the girl reflects on his words. She suspects something happened in her absence and wonders how he got that information. This makes her question the reliability of the royal spy the woman hired. As a precaution, the princess's aide decides to check everything again. She concludes that if Sisley is still around, even after the warning, it is because she has already figured out Sergen's plan. That is why he finds the name Night Raven so imposing. He and Crane wait for the real Night Raven, wondering if the enemy knows about the ruse. He arrives at a catacomb and a voice suddenly catches his attention. The figure asks if he is enjoying pretending to be the Night Raven. The situation is similar to his previous encounter with the Mummy Boy. On that occasion, he said he did not expect the Night Raven to reveal himself so soon. Suddenly, the figure draws 2 daggers and begins to spin them deftly. In the blink of an eye, the attacker vanishes from his sight. He reappears with twin blades, but his target dodges with a simple tilt of the head. In response, he moves in with bare hands to immobilize the Night Raven. With a swift move, he grabs both of the enemy's wrists, declaring that this will not be a problem. The Night Raven, however, lets out a scream as its face twists into a grotesque expression. Unexpectedly, a blade erupts from its shoulder. 2 large blades burst from the Night Raven's shoulders, and it begins to laugh manically. Immediately after, he lands a powerful kick on his opponent. Despite the impact of the kick, he manages to shatter the blades. He then lands a devastating blow to the Night Raven's face. He and his crow declare the attack futile, explaining that forbidden arts fueled by corruption do not affect him. The Night Raven's true identity is revealed. It is Ebilassi. Ebilassi reveals that Sergen holds her heart captive and demands to know where to find her. He proposes a deal. With his help, Ebilassi can get her heart back. In exchange, Ebilassi must reveal every detail of Seren's plan. The corruptor behind the Night Raven's mask is the necromancer, Ebilassi Benapot. As a corruptor, the necromancer had her heart stolen and held captive by the Empire for 1,000 years. One day, Arthur brought her in, claiming she could be useful. The Blue Generation despises corruptors. They only knew her as the world's sole necromancer, unaware of her true identity as the Night Crow. Corpses do not leak information, even if the mission fails. A necromancer who commands corpses, crows, and a family of assassins. All clues point to Ebilassi. The Night Crow's identity was unknown as the target was eliminated while still at the academy. She disappeared, possibly captured by Arthur. Dealing with her requires an aggressive attitude, a brute force approach that kicks down doors. She gets cocky easily, so he intimidates her to keep her in line. He orders her to face him, and she reminds him of his promise to find her heart. He replies that he first intends to demonstrate his abilities in person. The original target was the heart in her possession, and in that instant he activates his ability. The Black Hood's ability pierces through the locks protecting her. With so many conditions in place, a direct approach was difficult. He tells Ebilassi to entrust her heart to him. He claims he can retrieve it for her right here, right now. Tears stream down her face as he tries to break through the locks. She declares that her trust requires more than just words and demands he show more effort. She insists she is serious, struggling to project more confidence. He then asks if she is tired of her current life. If she gets her heart back, she can spend her days lazing around in her room, letting the corpses do all the work. But if he fails, she will have to obey the royal family and work tirelessly for the rest of her life. The prospect of more work brings her to tears. This is the power of a necromancer. He feels her activating her aura. She screams that she has already worked for over 1,000 years and begs for help, but he says she must offer her heart in exchange for her truest desire. She replies that she has no choice but to trust him since she does not want to work anymore, and tells him he can take her heart. He smiles. Ebilassi is finally free, and he succeeds in stealing her ability. She begs him to save her. After all, her only wish is to live in peace without working for the rest of her life. He smiles and declares that Ebilassi is free. She demands her heart back, but he orders her to fulfill her part of the deal first. He claims he will return it when everything is over. She protests, insisting she does not want to work anymore. He then questions her about Ebilassi and Sergeant's plans. She reveals that the 4th princess's swordmaster, Sarah Barra, is the target for elimination. Her orders are to use Sarah's corpse to eliminate Sisley and Fa. And so the Master Knight meets her end at the hands of Mary Diana. Mary Diana tells her she should be grateful to die for the Empire. She is then eliminated right in front of the crow. Mary Diana calls Sarah Batera a mad sword and annihilates her by running the spear through her body. Ebolowski receives the order to appear, a direct command from Seren. She is also ordered to manipulate Sarah's corpse to eliminate the fourth princess, Cicely and Fia. A year has passed since she returned to the past. She wonders if Lord Arthur is watching her and believes that both she and Seren are doing their best for him. She admits she misses Arthur. The narrative returns to one day before the destruction. On the first Saturday after the regression, Arthur asked her to meet him at 1 o'clock in the afternoon in front of the Statue of Peace. She almost jumped for joy upon seeing Lord Arthur's promise. Her heart full of hope after the regression, she goes to the meeting place, but Lord Arthur never appears. Diana wonders if she will ever see Baya or Arthur again. In the present, she has been waiting for him for a year. She wonders about her lord's whereabouts. Lady Sergen told her to believe his words and wait. That way she would recover her former strength, becoming the most powerful spear. That is why she must push herself even harder to ensure the success of this mission. A giant Balask corpse lifts Sir's body from the ground. Ebolasi, who controls the corpse, notices something and is shocked. Ebolaski retreats, aware that they are hiding a boy as captivating as Crash Valhane. She considers it a waste that he is a corpse, and she did not expect to face him in the finals. This is Per, a 14-year-old commoner who looks ordinary on the outside, but she knows he is a pure-hearted boy whose dream is to achieve world peace. At this moment, he draws his sword. Prit is a powerhouse of the blue generation, a fact he has not revealed to the Academy. Everyone notices that the Night Crow draws his sword for the first time, and they conclude his opponent must be strong. Prit says he heard that no nation can interfere in the affairs of Return Academy. Now that they have reached the finals, their admission is guaranteed. That is why he asked Crash to abandon his life as an assassin. He claims that Crash can become a good comrade. Crash senses Purr's kindness, but remembers a warning he received before the fight. The warning said that if he clung too tightly to hope, he would not be able to overcome despair when it came. Purre senses Crash's rejection of his offer of peace. The judge then orders the fight to begin. Purre uses the 10 steps of heaven technique to attack Crash. Crash recognizes the move in that same instant. He dodges with his hands behind his back, blocking the blow with his sword. Purre realizes his feint has been completely deciphered. It is as if Crash understands his entire swordsmanship in a single instant, and all his attacks are blocked. Ped's expression is that of someone who has just seen a ghost. After all, he is facing someone who has already died once. Crash watches Purre and remembers that he grew up in a region where it snows all year round. It was there that he developed steps that imitate gliding on ice. There he also created the 10 steps of heaven technique. His potential is comparable to that of Annex Glazer. Crash places the sword at his neck and advises him to get stronger. That way, even with his hope crushed, he can still leave a seed behind. Then Crash hits him with the 1-inch punch. Meanwhile, the Crow finds the analysis interesting, and Crash wins the fight. Pure falls after taking the blow and asks if they will meet again. Crash remembers helping Purre in his past life. Back then, Pure promised to work harder than anyone to protect the world, even after the curse was removed. Crash recalls the surprise he felt at the promise made after he was freed from the curse. It was the first time he had heard such sincere thanks. He replies that they will see each other again at the Academy, even defeated on the ground. Pure is happy to know they will be friends. Meanwhile, the second prince confirms that everything has gone exactly as he planned. He believes that by using the Night Crow to attract more nobles, the throne will be his. Bask replies that she is just honoring a favor. The prince reminds her that he holds her heart and that she must remain obedient. At that moment, the judge realizes something is wrong. A group of people approaches, interrupting the event. The judge warns them, reminding them that the second prince is present, but the newcomers announce that this is an official matter. They are the Black Dragon Knights. Everyone wonders about the presence of the order responsible for punishing criminals. Lady Diana then declares the arrest of the second prince on suspicion of involvement in the murder of the fourth princess, Cicely Epiphania. He is detained immediately and begins to question the reason for his arrest. Lady Diana replies that an assassination order against the fourth princess issued by him was found in the Night Crow's hideout. The prince denies it, insisting he never wrote such an order. He asks Balask what she is doing. He then demands that she eliminate the bastards who are framing him. At that moment, Sarah Beater appears with Cicely, proving that none of them were eliminated. Sarah states that they should forget the murder accusation. After all, not even the shadow of an assassin was seen, and everyone believed they were dead, which leaves Diana in shock. She realizes that Cicely, Ephania, and Sarah are still alive. Stunned, Diana wonders what is happening. On the night Sarah was supposed to be eliminated, Cicely's intuition proved correct. Cicely warns Sarah that they cannot trust the royal spy they hired. For this reason, Sarah decides to check the information again. Hearing the warning, she finds it impossible that the spies inside the palace could betray them. Still, a bad feeling overcomes her, and she goes back to speak with Her Highness immediately. The crow offers Sarah Batera the temporary power of immortality in exchange for her life force. The voice of Crash's crow echoes directly inside Sarah's mind. In that instant, she is consumed by the curse of immortality. Her eyes reveal that she has acquired the new ability. A terrible headache hits her, and she wonders what the crow has done to her. Then Lady Diana appears. At the exact moment she thinks she should fake her death, Mary Diana appears before her. Mary Diana pierces her abdomen with the tip of the spear. If the crow had not granted the power of immortality, neither she nor Cicely nor Surly would be alive. For this reason, Sarah orders the arrest of the vice captain of the Black Dragon Knights on charges of espionage. Mary Diana realizes her entire plan has collapsed. She had brought the Black Dragon Knights, convinced that they were all already dead. Then Sarah decides to put an end to Diana and draws her sword. She advances on the woman and her knights. Diana watches the vice captain get killed before her eyes and wonders how it all ended up like this. She had ordered Ebelask to eliminate Sarah. Afterwards, they would use the corpse to attract and eliminate Ciri and Cicely. Yet here they are, acting as if nothing happened. The discovery of the spies and the black dragons proves the fourth princess already knew everything. That is exactly why Sergun tried to eliminate her. If she stays alive, she will become an even greater threat in the future. Diana decides to eliminate her right here and now and materializes Ebelask's heart in her hand, making the knight scream that she is a monster. She begins to squeeze the heart, forcing Ebelask to eliminate the fourth princess immediately. Suddenly, the heart disappears from her hand. She immediately notices its absence and searches her waist, but the heart is gone. She not only failed to eliminate the fourth princess, she also failed to capture the second prince, and in the process, she lost Ebel's heart. In the end, everything Mary Diana did was in vain. The realization of her complete failure leaves her dark and desperate. Now only one option remains: to eliminate the princess with her own hands. With everyone distracted by Ebelask, she sees her only chance and advances on the princess. Then she leaps and the ground shatters beneath her feet. She uses the absolute speed technique. At maximum acceleration, she charges with her spear directly at Surly. She attacks with full force, determined to eliminate the princess. However, someone blocks the attack with a sword, and their energies collide in a direct clash. Sarah Beta recognizes the man immediately. It is Crash Valheim. Mary questions how a mere corpse managed to stop her acceleration. He replies that her simplistic way of thinking has not changed at all since their past life. Shocked, she demands to know how he knows her. The second prince does not understand what is happening, but he realizes that this is his chance to escape. In that moment of distraction, Mary is captured. She is arrested by the Black Dragons on charges of attempting to assassinate the imperial family. Her arrest is announced publicly, and she is consumed by rage. Even with her plan exposed, she should not have committed such a reckless act. In desperation, she cries out for help to Sirin and Arthur. The princess and Sarah ask if Crash is all right, but he admits that he is not. He admits he barely blocked that attack. Even with his black flames, his power is still far from the master level he once possessed. Immediately after, orders are given to investigate possible accomplices. Taking advantage of the confusion, they leave the scene. Before leaving, he warns Cicely to be careful. He advises her to watch her own brothers, and then leaves with Ebelask without even treating his wounds. Sarah Bera asks what he was talking about, but Crash leaves before Cicely has a chance to thank him. Crash says he is going to the academy, and Ebelask replies that she will accompany him to repay her debt. She hands him the golden dragon herb he asked for, and asks if he has any idea how difficult it was to obtain. With the confrontation over, he returns the heart to Ebelasi. She really thought he would force her to serve him forever. She states that he is different from the other corruptors because he did not use the power of corruption to block Mary's attack. His black flames are born from the high concentration of poison in his blood. That is why she believed him, thinking he was also a corruptor, and that perhaps she had judged the others incorrectly. In that moment, the conversation is interrupted by a message from a subordinate, and the crow warns him. The warning is about his fiancée, Bianca. Something has happened to her. The news confirms that something suspicious has happened to his fiancée. The message from a subordinate in Hardened Hearts reports that a clan of assassins has invaded the mountains. His fiancée was there at that exact moment, and now she is missing. This explains the bad feeling he had upon meeting the disciple from the assassin clan. He tells Ebilasi that his fiancée is in danger, and that they must leave for Hardened Hearts immediately. Ebilasi questions him, surprised that a corruptor like him could have a fiancé. She remembers that the girl from the clan lives in Hardened Hearts. She heard rumors that the youngest Valhan's son was engaged to someone from Hardened Hearts, and cannot believe anyone would marry the daughter of such a troublesome family. But the truth is that he is not a world corruptor. He reveals that Claude is not his real name, and introduces himself as Crash Valhan, the youngest son of the family. The shock is so great that she drops her heart on the ground. Hearing the surname Valhan, she realizes he is the family's famous useless son. She cannot believe Claude was a Valhan all along. Meanwhile, in the territory of Hardened Hearts, a temporary camp stands in the mountains. Lady Jenica Harden, the family's second daughter, regrets her decision. If she had been honest about having the son Snow Mushroom, Bianca would have never climbed the mountain. Someone asks her why Lady Bianca went up the mountain. Jenica explains that Bianca could not find the mushroom in any market. That is why she decided to search for it herself and climb the mountain on her own. Days earlier, Jenica told Bianca that the useless Valhan wanted the mushroom and that she should just go home. But Bianca ignored the warning and continued her search. With a blank expression, Bianca turned to her sister and stated that Crash was not useless. Annoyed, Bianca asked why Jenica was following her, saying she should have left the search to the others. In response, Jenica offered her the Sun Snow mushroom. She said that this way they could both finally go home. The truth is that Jenica has always hated Bianca. Bianca in turn simply apologized. Her body trembled as she said it was all her fault. In that instant, the mad dog appeared. Jenica froze, paralyzed by the creature's malevolent presence. The killer reveals himself to everyone. His axe tears through the air above the field. With a single swing, he cuts down several men, tearing their heads from their bodies. A command to run echoes through the area, and the killer dog declares that he is lucky today as he cuts down another person. A warning is given for the young ladies to save their own lives. Bianca breaks into a run and orders her sister to follow. As the two hide, the mad dog comments that he did not expect to find such perfect hostages in this place. Meanwhile, the killer continues the hunt for them. Bianca reminds her sister of the promise she made to Crash to bring him the Sun Snow fungus, but Jenica cuts her off, demanding she stop talking about her fiancé. She declares that she does not want to lose her life in a place like this. Jenica insists there is still a way to escape since they have movement artifacts to cross the snow safely.